We have a baby together and sadly it's time to leave, but I can't because there might be hope. My partner, 43 male, and I, 26 female, have been living together for 2 years. I got pregnant just around the time when pandemic hit with just months into dating. Before that it was wonderful, he was so caring and we just clicked so well. It was amazing in general. We decided to keep the child. That's when things took a turn. First was accusing me of sleeping around and child wasn't his. I was exclusively dating him since we met, then him suddenly turning super cold and not communicating well. He created this reality that I was never pregnant, or when I'd bring it up the child wasn't his so he never took responsibility. Finally when I started showing, I had to run to my mum for help and handle the pregnancy mostly on my own while he watched from afar, overworking and doing his own thing. I clearly learnt it this way that he has terrible communication, lack of empathy, he says emotions are dramatic, stupid and unnecessary. I am a crier especially at home, although he says he loves me. He was not like the man I met, in fact the complete opposite. Finally I delivered the child and he was really happy, but I also was diagnosed with PPD, which I had therapy with. It went well in the first couple months until the 3rd month he demanded I get back to work when I was full-time breastfeeding and had no help. That caused me so much stress taking care of my girl. I finally got back to work when she was 8 months and between those periods, when it's going well, we get along like amazing friends and we have a loving relationship. When we argue, or sad about something, doesn't have to do with him, he invalidates me and ignores, stonewalls me. He'd also often complain or finds an excuse to get mad at me. He is very inconsistent. One day or week he's in love but the next day he could just ignore me for hours, days. Then he'd talk about long-term plans like meeting his family, living somewhere else, getting married, etc. But he doesn't care when I'd cry or want to have deep conversations. At first I made excuses thinking it's his introversion or awkwardness but now I don't know. Another backstory on him. 15 years ago, he had a child with his ex and she hated him so much she blocked him from seeing his son for the last 13 years. He'd never explain why, he just says she's unstable. But somewhat I'm starting to understand her. Her not letting him see his son is bad and I don't want to do that to him and he doesn't ever want it to happen again. He loves our baby so much and is fully committed to raising her. I've left him couple times but he wouldn't let me, he'd come asking me, and my daughter, to come back. I've asked him many times to leave but he won't. He believes we must stay together for our daughter because it's better for all of us. He thinks we're having problems because of where we are now and if we moved somewhere else, it would be better for us as a family. Part of me wants to stay because I feel maybe he's right and should try again in a better environment. Sometimes I feel it's entirely my fault, but deep down I also think I've been emotionally manipulated. I start to think my emotions are a burden, that I can't talk to him or my feelings are invalid. Or I'd be a bad mum if I ever left. Or that I can't live without him. I do understand maybe he wasn't ready after all and neither was I. We had some of the harshest lockdowns in the world so it might have impacted us, but all he sees is himself and says that I'm the problem. I want to leave and I also want to do what's best for us, like staying, but at the same time I can't handle the inconsistency anymore. I feel worn out and depressed every day because of it. We still love each other, I might still have hope, I'm pretty positive in general but not sure now. Too long did not read. I want to leave the relationship with our child but I can't as I'd be a bad mum. And #X200B. And #X200B. Edit. Regarding the why didn't you abort or have you heard of birth control, we live in a country where birth control is hard to find, super, really expensive or made into fakes. Abortion is banned under any gest age. There's a reason why these men go for younger women. No inexperienced older one would take an asshole. My partner, 43 male, and I, 26 female, have been living together for 2 years. Oh, FFS. You moved in with someone almost your father's age. There's a reason older men date much younger women. Then can control them. Women their own age will tell him to fuck off. Unfortunately, you need to grow up fast and start looking out for yourself and your baby. Having a shitty man in your child's life will make it a lot worse than if you had 0 men in your life. You don't need a man to raise a good child. Good children have been raised with no parents and shitty children have been raised with both parents. I stopped reading once I saw the age difference because that explains it all. Now you have a child with him. Yikes. I need women to open their eyes when it comes to older men. This shit is getting ridiculous now. Get out now before he picks a newer model. His relationship with his first baby mama should have been eye-opening. Do not move away. Stay where you have support. He wants to isolate you. Ask family for shelter. 43, M. 26, F. I literally don't need to read another word. This man is a loser who cannot date within his own age bracket, so he preys on a younger woman who cannot see past his facade. How would you be a bad mother for protecting your child against an emotionally abusive father? So sounds like you're near your mom or family right now. Stay there. Do not move away. But you need to move out of that house and not go back. Maybe there's hope, maybe not, but you two need distance and time to bother figuring that out. What really happened with his other child? You say the mom wouldn't let him see the child. But did he try? Has he been to court? Fought for it? I wouldn't trust him, and especially wouldn't trust him moving you all away from your support system. That is a pretty big age gap. It's possible that he treated you so well because he believed you were out of his league, and wanted to keep you. That would assist explain his insecurities. Then when you got pregnant, he figured he had you locked down. But it's better to raise a child in a split custody family than an unhealthy one. The younger they are when it happens, the better. The longer you wait, the more it becomes part of their world, which they eventually feel like is collapsing, if parents aren't together. Don't hold out for possible hope. You deserve to be treated the way you were at the beginning. By someone that treats you that way, because of how they feel about you. Instead of as a manipulation tactic. What's best for you both is to leave. He doesn't get a say in you staying or breaking up with him. You're not doing your child any favors by staying together. You're traumatizing the child and normalizing being in an abusive relationship. They will go on to have one because they will see it modeled. He lost his right to see his child and be a family when he became abusive. He made his bed. Also, please slow down in the future because you really don't know someone after some months. Also, what others have said, he picks you because he thinks you're easily to control because of the age gap. In the future, be wary of huge age gaps and take your time when dating someone. If they're a good person, they still will be if you wait to live together and etc. My parents tried to stay together for the kids. We were better off once they separated. Oh, and I guarantee the ex blocked him for her safety and the safety of the kid. You should do the same. Oh sweetie, you got with a guy old enough to be your father, which usually means they can't get someone their own age because anyone who's been around a bit won't stand for their ahishness. So, then when he starts really being an R, and you basically have to have your baby yourself, that doesn't teach you anything. He comes back into your life, and is sporadically nice and sporadically terrible. He has an ex with a kid and you learn he was the same way with her. Is this how you want to live the rest of your life? With this jackhole, is this the guy you want to be a role model for your daughter? Wouldn't your life be nicer and more stable without him in it? If he's not ready for a child at 46 years old, he never will be, babe. He's not behaving like a man who loves you. That he has an ex who's gone no contact with him for years, to the extent of not letting him see a previous child, should speak volumes to you. Move out, stay out, and consider going no contact. The now I love you now I don't game he's been playing with you. He'll do that to your child. If it's messing you up this much, what do you think that's going to do to a child? Leaving an abusive relationship makes you a good mum, not a bad one. Read the book Why Does He Do That, and then come back and reread what you wrote. Go from there. Why women on their 20s continue thinking that they will have a fairy tale love story with a man that double her age. Honestly, if a man that double my age tries to hit on me, a 20-ish-year-old woman, I would wonder almost unintentionally what is wrong with this man. Red flag, run away. Relationships 101. It's not inconsistency, it's abuse. He's abusive. There's a reason the ex-wife went no contact. He's abusive. He's not going to get better. Things won't change. He's not going to be a positive influence in your child's life. Block and delete and move on, for the sake of your child. People like this don't change, they just escalate. It's really common for abuse to begin when you fall pregnant. Your abuser thinks they've got you trapped. I'm not sure where in the world you are, but I'd advise contacting a local women's org for advice on how to leave. Why does every post on here have an age gap of 15 plus years thinking face? You don't need his permission to leave. You don't need him at all. Your baby will be happier growing up with a single mother and her grandma than with her mum and her dad trapped in a miserable, manipulative relationship. You had a baby with someone who was almost a complete stranger, and now you know him well enough to know that he is a terrible father and a terrible partner. Don't let him move you far away from your support system, because then you'll be stuck relying on him, and he is not reliable. Read a book, Why Does He Do That? For real. And do not move away from your family. He wants you alone and isolated. And the kid gets dragged all through this. Pouting. Leaving this shitty relationship would make you a good mom. Do you want your child to grow up one day and be trapped in the same shitty relationship with someone who treats them this way because they learned it from you? Don't know if this has been said, but do not let him convince you to move. If you move and manages to isolate you, his behavior could turn worse and you would be stuck. If you have a job and support where you are, do not leave that area and those people. Not sure if someone has mentioned it yet, but if he's insistent on moving, make sure it's not further away from your friends, family in an effort to isolate you. I have no idea if that's his intentions, but based on the fact that he won't let you leave, he might want to knock down your support system so that you can't. Yuck. At 43 with a 26-year-old and a newborn, he should be taking care of you, not forcing you back to work so soon. Why are you surprised? Any 43-year-old man that ends up dating a 26F clearly wasn't a good enough person for the millions of women his age when he was in his 20s and 30s. Leave. And stick him with alimony. Our relationship is great except the times when he gaslights me, emotionally abuses me, and isolates me from my support network. Girl. There is no hope. Do you want your daughter to grow up being treated the same way as he treats you? Do you want but to feel like her emotions are invalid or a burden? Do you want her to feel that same stress and depression? You'd be a bad mum if you stayed. Run. I didn't even need to read past the first sentence. I don't give a shit about the age of consent. Your brain isn't matured until you're even 26, and then you still are developing your prefrontal cortex and other regions well into your late 20s. Babe, what the fuck does a 41-year-old man want to do with a 24-year-old? Y'all are at two completely different points of your life. Not only is he an abuser from what you described, after briefly skimming, the man is a goddamn predator. Please do yourself and your soon-to-be-born child a favor and get the fuck out of there before he takes the best years of your life away. He's 43, he won't change. This whole story of his unstable ex who doesn't let him see his child, it's that, a story. That woman fell for him facade as you did, and now you have the same problem. This guy got you pregnant 2 months into the relationship. He was looking for a way to lock you up. Find therapy resources for you. The way he has behaved is abusive. He won't change and you need to remove yourself and the kid from him. Also, he mentioned moving. But your only support system is your mother. I feel like he wants to isolate you. I would leave him. He had many chances and he blew them all up. You need to focus on yourself and the baby. I understand the sentiment that physically where a person lives affects their well-being. But I would really advise against moving. Skeptical smiley face. That's a really big decision for someone that inconsistent, and if you would be cut off from your support system, forced to rely on him, depending on moving distance of course, that could make your situation a lot worse. I'm sure you're weighing the pros and cons heavily. I myself lived with my ex-abuser for almost a year and it was an awful decision. Some of the things you describe here, especially about the changes out of nowhere and the lack of communication, remind me of that. I wish you all the best. Remember that hope is not reality, and to always make the next best available choice. You. Don't let him gaslight you because he may think he's older and wiser. Run for the hills and make sure he never gets to talk to you nor your daughter. I don't need to repeat what everyone else has already said, but I just wanted to add, please don't move with him to somewhere new. He's not trying to make a fresh start, he's trying to isolate you from your support system so you'll have no way of leaving. He sounds like a narcissist to me. Take your daughter and dip as soon as you can and never look back. Please do not move with him. It's a manipulation tactic to isolate you and make it harder to turn to the people who are in your life. He will just get worse and make it easier to gaslight you and emotionally abuse you more. These situations then can turn into physical abuse, not saying it will but can. He claims his ex is crazy and isn't allowed in his child's life, then finds a much younger woman is exactly how men like him operate. He needs to find someone younger to manipulate. Anyone who makes you feel this way and uses needing a fresh start away from your family or friends who clearly isn't the problem is a major red flag. I will be praying for you and hope you get away from him. Do you want your daughter to allow a man to treat her the way he is treating you? If the answer is no, it's up to you to put on your hard work clothes and get the hell out of there. Sometimes what we call hope is really denial. He seems abusive. He might not be narcissistic but definitely abusive and manipulative. Check out Subs Dealing with Narcissistic Abuse. You'll find a lot of people with similar stories. You said he was good in the beginning. That's love bombing. Educate yourself and leave this relationship. It's not worth it. He was nice to you until you got pregnant and decided to keep the baby because he thought he had you trapped. There is no hope for this relationship. He is a manipulative abuser. Get out now. It will only get worse. 1. Sounds like he may be having a variation of personality disorder. The dismissal of emotions and inconsistencies point to plausible narcissism or sociopathy, or something that manifests in similar way. Either way, if the person doesn't have a handle on it, probably be a lost cause. I would leave ASAP. The love bombing and flip after pregnancy are classic narcissism behavior. 2. Staying together is no longer best for you. I recommend you speak with some people whose parents tried that. I've been told too many stories of childhood trauma where the person as a child was hoping their parents would finally divorce. It sounds an older sexual predator has latched onto you and is ruining your life. He sounds awful. You should get away from him. For the love of God, get TF out. He is not stable. The major first red flags were him thinking the baby wasn't his or didn't exist. Do you want your daughter to witness this relationship and think this is what love is? Love isn't a woman being manipulated and head FCKED. You can be good parents apart. You need to see the truth. People who stay together for the kids always screw up the kids. Happy mama is more important and he can be a good day without you suffering. He is a loser, manipulator, and it will only get worse if you stay. You will be a much better mom if you leave while your child is a baby and spare them a childhood in a toxic household. There is absolutely no hope with this. No woman his age would deal with this. Run, run, run. To add on what everyone else says, the "let's move somewhere else" is a trap to make you lose the support system you have where you are right now and be completely dependent on him and far away from people who might be able to help you. You and your child should be nowhere near this man. You'd be a worse mother to subject it to him any more than legally necessary. Do not move with him. You could have no one to count on. He could completely isolate you. Good Lord, get out of this relationship ASAP. He will never change and is a master manipulator. Oh love, is there a domestic abuse agency you can get support from? His pattern of inconsistency is deliberate, to keep you stuck with him. It's absolutely not the right thing for any child to grow up in an abusive household. He is abusing you. Learning to feel and express emotions is vital to your daughter's development. He's not going to facilitate that, is he? He's going to tell her crying is stupid and to suppress how she feels. That will lead to endless problems. Run. He will not change, he's just good at making you think he will. Too many red flags in all of this to count, or bother pointing out. Just leave.